Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Studio 78 podcast. I am your host, Nache from NacheSnow.com. All right, you guys, I only have three more episodes maybe before the end of the year, before I take a little break. It's kind of crazy, but you're gonna love all the episodes. So many amazing people. You guys are gonna love all of them. You're going to end this year inspired, regardless of how crazy 2020 has been. But it's a little insane. Like 1 month and we'll be in 2021. It's crazy. It's like now is the time to reflect on what worked and didn't work, reflect on at the beginning of the pandemic, what did you realize you needed to focus on and what did you realize you needed to let go, and really start thinking about what's important to you and what you need to focus on. Of course, I have some things that can help you with that. I have the Life Cleanse Journal that you can find over at NacheSnow.com. You can also sign up for my Skillshare course that helps you on productivity. And if you sign up at NacheSnow.com/Skillshare, you'll get 2 months free if you're not already signed up with Skillshare. And you will also find in my shop some digital products in order to get you organized, because I'm all about organization. And over the next few weeks, you're going to see me push out more productivity products because I feel like people at the end of the year, towards New Year's, usually are ready to commit to getting more organized. So this is the perfect time for me to really push those products out. And then hopefully, when people start using them, especially at the top of the year, that they continue to do so. I know sometimes people fall off the first quarter after they commit to being more productive for New Year's, but I have faith in you guys and I know you're going to do it. I am working on just a quick YouTube video too to talk about finances, because I know you guys probably have already spent money on Black Friday and hopefully you supported small businesses. You could check my blog for many businesses run by females and people of color. But you also just need to keep in mind, only spend what you can afford. That is really key. Be smart on how you're spending and who you're spending your money with. Okay, that's all I'll say. Basically, everything you need in life is at NacheSnow.com. And if you need the show notes for this page, just put /120 after NacheSnow.com and boom, show notes there. Okay, let's talk about today's guest. I have Heidi Nielsen on from Desert to District. She is a lawyer by day, but on nights and weekends, she actually sells her art and her illustrations. So we discuss how she got into that business and why she gives part of her proceeds to associations that support women of color that are trying to become lawyers. And she is really passionate about what she does in supporting future lawyers of color, and her work is really cool and amazing. And I just really loved hearing her story and how very intentional she is about her business and what she wants to support and what she wants to do with it. We talk about all things from COVID to the racial justice movement to what's next for her. And I think when you listen to her story, you will absolutely be inspired. All right, if you love the episode, just remember to share it with others that you think need it, because her story is really inspirational. All right, let's get to it. Hello, Heidi. Welcome to the Studio 78 podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, before we dig into Desert to District, and I'm so excited because I feel like I'm always interviewing from people from like California and all across. So whenever I talk to someone who's in the same city, I'm like, yes. I'm like, maybe once COVID is over, I feel like all the entrepreneurs I know in the city, we need to have a rooftop get together or
Yeah.
something.
No, I totally agree. That would be amazing.
Before we just dig into Desert to District, can you just tell the listeners a little bit about you and your background?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Heidi. I have my business, which is Desert to District, but I'm also a lawyer by day, which can be demanding to say the least. And behind Desert to District, I'm from Arizona originally, but I've been in DC for about 5 years now. Just trying to slowly grow this side hustle, hobby, whatever it is at this point, into a business while kind of managing things day to day.
How did you? I mean, a lot of us, like even I have a 9 to 5 job, so everything I do, like
Mm-hmm.
even this podcast or nights and weekends, we're both talking like at night right now, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like people are like, okay, you already have a day job. Why the heck are you doing this thing on nights and weekends instead of watching Netflix?
No, people ask me that all the time, for sure.
So how did it start for you?
Yeah, it's so strange. So it's very a winding path, I would say, because in undergrad, I was an English major. I had no idea or no intentions of going to law school at all. I really wanted to pursue a creative path. So I was an English major, but doing creative writing and had an interdisciplinary art journal that was very, very underground. Not a lot of people read it, but I really wanted to pursue a creative career. And then I was in AmeriCorps for a year in between undergrad and law school, and actually in DC, and it drew me into an interest in public service and advocating for people, which led me to law school. So it's been like this long circle where in law school, I feel like I was really focused on law school and didn't have a lot of time for creative stuff. And then once I started my full-time job about 5 years ago in DC, I actually had time in it actually sounds weird, but I had a lot of free time, like way more than I was used to, because I wasn't studying in the evenings, wasn't like working part-time jobs trying to pay my tuition. I had time from 5, 6 in the evening every weekday, and then I had all my weekends open. And so I started just like experimenting with my creative hobbies again. So I started having more free time than I had being in law school or even in undergrad when I had a lot of jobs and homework. So I started experimenting with painting and kind of all my favorite old creative hobbies. And painting was what really stuck. I really loved it from like as soon as I started doing watercolors, and I just started posting them on Instagram under the Desert to District. It started as just like accountability because I was doing one of those 100-day projects. And then, yeah, and then it really just grew organically from there to slowly, just step by step, like registering my business and going to pop-ups and doing my lots of firsts for sure in the last 3 years.
When you first started that 100-day project, do you feel like that is really when you got your momentum? Because I've talked to others, like Lauren from Home Sweet Home, for example, and her passion project is what really kicked off that business. So do you feel that's when people start even noticing you on social media and you're like, oh, this might be a thing?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think especially because I was posting every day, and then about halfway through my 100-day project, which took way longer than 100 days because like real life intervened. But halfway through my 100-day project, I started doing all desert related stuff. So all cactus, and all my paintings were mini paintings, and they all had a desert theme in one way or another. And I was doing like a daily giveaway of them just because, you can't, like, I was amassing so many paintings and they were small and easy to mail. And so I was just doing it like, whoever comments first and wants it can have it. And it started to, like, I started getting, like, every day within seconds of posting it, somebody would claim it, which was really cool. And then I got featured on Brightest Young Things in DC, which is a blog. I'm sure you're familiar with it for sure. But for people outside of DC, they're like a big arts and culture and things to do in the city kind of thing. I got featured on there with my project, and then it like really not blew up because I don't have that many followers still, but you know, there was momentum behind it, and it was, yeah, it was like very exciting to see people like connecting with just what I was considering like experimental paintings.
Yeah. You know, with the paintings, like, why deserts?
I think I was homesick, honestly. I was new to the city still, and I love DC so much, but it is so different. And it was winter, and it's cold here, and so especially in the winter, I really miss the desert. So I think that was why I was just, oh, it's like home, and imagining being able to go outside and go hiking and see all my favorite cacti.
Yeah, because you were originally were you like born and raised in Arizona?
No, I was born in Utah, but I've been in Arizona for most of my life, like went to elementary school there and everything up through law school. So I was there for a really long time.
Okay, but even though Arizona and Utah, they're both very different to the DC, right? Like that's like night and day.
Completely. Yeah, it's very different. Yeah, so I guess the homesickness and missing Arizona a little bit.
And then painting, right? When I talk to people, a lot of people are just, sometimes they know they want to do something creative, but they don't know what it is. Is it ceramics? Is it traditional illustrations? Is it painting? They just don't know. So for you, how did you discover painting was your thing? What gravitated you to that particular medium?
And I would say just generally, I definitely experimented a lot first. And so I always encourage people who are like, I'm looking for a creative hobby and I don't know what I like, to just like play with a bunch of things. I still like to experiment, but I even tried like writing a novel. Like I was really all over the place in terms of creative outlets. And I just really I just got so much, I guess, flow from painting. I'd lose track of time and it'd be like midnight on a night when I had to go to work at 7:30 in the morning, and I would still be in the midst of painting. So it was really just like, yeah, exactly.
You know, I always tell people, it's like you just know it when it hits. And so if you try a bunch of things, you know, we have like the torpedo factory that's not too far from us. And I can't tell you how many classes I've taken. And I tell you what, I learned that ceramics is not for me. I will just buy it in the store. Right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Wood carving, like, and all of that, the lineographs or whatever it's called, that is not for me. I love it on Instagram. I will buy a print, but I was like, I do not have the patience and the love to be carving anything. But the more you do stuff, the more like, okay, I love watercolor, I love laser cutting, I love drawing. And then eventually something usually, or sometimes it's a couple of things, usually stick.
Yeah, definitely. I was just buying all kinds of art supplies or getting them secondhand or something and just like experimenting. So I definitely did the like lino cut, block printing, screen printing, and I was okay, that was fun to try and not for me.
Right.
So it was really the painting.
Yeah, I was like, I will watch Instagram videos of that all day. I was like, but I will not be carving anything.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's very cool. I admire people who do it.
Oh, I do too. I'm like, I taking the class, I got a better appreciation for like how they create stuff. And then you have also a very distinct style.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. And so, you know, I feel like even when I'm looking for people to bring on the podcast, probably naturally I kind of gravitate to a style and someone who has like a very, to me, a strong brand. How long would you say it took you to figure out your colors, your tone, like your illustration style?
It's been a journey for sure. So I've had my Instagram account probably for a little over 4 years and my business for 3 years. And I really feel like it's really only been in the last maybe year and a half that I've sat down. Well, it was a combination of sitting down and like really writing out a mission statement for my art business, which was not intuitive to me as an artist. I think you think like, oh, I'm just gonna like think about it and it will manifest itself, into a style. But that, like, being intentional and really thinking down and writing down my mission statement, and then also kind of also, I don't exactly have like a strict color palette, but I know what my color palette brand is, which is like kind of the desert color palette. So even though I don't do as much like literal desert illustration anymore or painting, it's still there in my color palette, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And then, so for you, because I feel like all creatives, we've been there where we have this thing, we love it, we might have too many pieces, so either we give it away or we start selling it. Sometimes those creative businesses can hover around a hobby. Sometimes like, you're really breaking even. Other times you have a little extra money to like either save or go on a vacation or put down on a car. So for you, where did you decide to take your side hustle, and how were you able to grow it to where it is now, however you would like classify it?
It is a small business, but I think in terms of like where I am with revenue versus investment, it's like a nice little bonus.
Yeah.
It's definitely not at a point where I could leave my job and be completely at the same income level. But I guess about the time when I like sat down and wrote my mission statement, I just wanted to give a shout out to Latella Curatorial, because that's what I went to one of their business workshops, and it was really helpful in terms of applying business kind of planning and thinking to creative businesses, especially for artists. Like, I think there is a big part of me that I was just like, oh, it's gonna like, I'll just keep trying things and somehow I'll get there without putting the conscious thought into it. But I went to that workshop, I wrote my mission statement, and the things that were really important to me were really just being comfortable, like expressing my full self. I think before that I'll take whatever. I'll do portraits, I'll do this, I'll do any illustration project, I'll do logos. And once I sat down and thought about it, like, you don't have unlimited time, especially when you have a full-time job. You have really limited time, actually.
Yeah.
And so being intentional about what you want to do with your business, and for me, it was reflecting the many parts of myself and my business. I have a product line that's really important to me that's all about women lawyers, and they're especially lawyers of color. I'm Asian American, and I've partnered with some of my friends one of my friends has a group for Latinx or Latina lawyers in particular. Those kind of collaborations have been really organic, but also really the type of thing that I wanted when I wrote down my mission statement was just about art that reflects me, but also makes people feel seen and valued, in particular for women. And being able to articulate my mission statement to myself has led me to have a more cohesive brand and strategy for my business. Whereas before, it was definitely much more of anything. I was just doing all kinds of things.
Yeah, I love that because it gives you focus. You know your purpose and your mission. And once you know your purpose and your mission, you know when to say no to customers, clients, or when like maybe a product you think might work really doesn't work because it really doesn't align with what you're trying to do. So I love that advice of just really figuring out who you are and what you want your business to be and reflect, because that ultimately will help you determine product and services. And was there anything else that you picked up from that course that you ended up implementing and it kind of helped you, really create and frame your business?
Yeah, I think so. Marta Stodinger's the owner of Latella Curatorial, and she just has so much great advice. Just to give her a shout out.
Okay, yeah, I'll make sure to link her. It's Latella Curatoria.
Yeah.
Okay.
But part of the other advice that I got from that was realizing that I basically had two art businesses in a way. The first was my Desert to District brand, which is really illustration focused and all about like my mission statement that I just talked about. But then I
Mm-hmm.
also have a fine art practice that is super different in style
Mm. Yeah.
from my illustration work and more my client work too, and more experimental. And so like she gave me the advice of spinning that off into a separate Instagram account and a separate website and everything. And so it was daunting to me to get that advice, but it's been so helpful to me
Mm-hmm.
to have a clearer brand for both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and a clearer set of goals. Like, I think before I was just like, it's all art, so it all goes together. But now, like, ever since I've had that dichotomy, both literally, like in having two websites and two Instagram accounts, but also just like in my mind, it's helped me so much more to seek out the right opportunities that fit both. Not necessarily together, but seeking out the right opportunities for my fine art practice and then finding the right clients and right audience and right community for my Desert to District
You know,
work.
and I like that advice too. And of course, I'll link it in the show notes. And people, if you're following me on social media, I'll definitely link it when I post a picture, especially on Instagram. I love my Instagram. But when I see your two accounts, there is like they're connected but different, right? The Heidi Nielsen art, it's different. It's more about like the textures and showing paint strokes and really just focusing on the art, whereas the Desert to District is more, I feel like, where it's more of your illustrations and more just about you too, right? Like it's a little bit
Yeah,
more
definitely.
personal. So it has a different feel, but it's interesting the colors that you use though, like the tones of the colors kind of still tie the two together, which is nice.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so nice to hear. I'm glad that that's coming across.
So I love it. So I'll definitely link, I just pulled it up now just so I can make sure I have the link, the Latella curatorial, and make sure I have that in the show notes so people can check it out, because it's those workshops and the people that run those workshops that really can elevate your business, right? Like having someone come in, look at your business fresh and say, why are you doing that? Or you should be doing this. So, looking at the Desert to District, when I first went to your website after discovering you, I love that you really diversified your income. You have like your shop prints and stickers on Etsy. It has like shopper designs on Society6, and then you have all the things. So how did you figure that out? Because when it comes to art, right? I mean, oh my goodness, the sky is the limit. You could do t-shirts, you could do mugs, you could just do regular prints. I mean, you could go bananas figuring out what to do and how to make money. So how did you figure out what works for you?
So much is trial and error. But I had a therapist say to me once that I have a really strong sort of, I figure out what I don't want. That's my way of learning things. And I think that's really been true for my art practice and Desert to District, in that I tried out, what did I try out first? I've tried out all kinds of things. So I used to do a lot more, for example, portrait work. And I still do it on occasion, but I learned that isn't really my jam, even though you can have a higher price point and I've had really rewarding experiences that way, but I also like just found that it wasn't as fulfilling for me, and especially once I had my mission statement, it wasn't really necessarily in line with that. And through trial and error, I realized that I don't want like the custom illustration model to be part of my business model. And so similarly, like through trial and error with my Etsy shop, I at first didn't love doing prints because I have to figure out a way to store your inventory and mail everything, and it's time consuming to put everything on Etsy. But once I figured out that like that was the best way to reflect my mission and to make A lot of my art prints I want to make available to people at a price point that they can afford. And so
Mm-hmm.
that was also really important to me about like why I chose to like really focus on like my print shop maybe
Mm-hmm.
above other things.
Yeah.
Just to, and figuring out through trial and error the best like printer for me and the best kind of quantities of things to order and my
Mm-hmm.
storage and like getting stamps.com and everything. But yeah, that's been sort of trial and error. I'd say right now, where I am is most of my revenue is through print sales of some kind. So I have the Etsy shop, and then I have some prints in Shop Made in DC, which is a local shop that just focuses on all Made in DC brands.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so kind of diversifying through the prints themselves, both the commission model of having them in shops and then selling them directly myself.
It's interesting because I feel like there is always a point where you have to decide if you want something to be print on demand and you go through another place
Mm-hmm.
that gets cut, or
Mm-hmm.
if you print it yourself at home, or
Mm-hmm.
you get a local printer to print X number, even though that means if you don't sell it, it's going to be in your room. And
Yeah.
so,
No.
how did you figure out like what worked best for you?
So again, like the trial and error. So as you mentioned, I have some stuff on Society 6, but it's some of
Mm-hmm.
my older work, and
Mm.
I limit it to my older work because the the amount that you get, I think it's so great for when you're starting out that you don't have to do anything, but you also get such a small percentage of
Yeah.
the amount that you sell. Like now I just get random like PayPals from them for $5. It's not anything to live on. Um but yeah, with the printing yourself, like you said, you have to kind of balance the inventory and then also being able to stock the shipping supplies and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I think now I've gotten like a good enough system. It was over time. I found a printer I like, especially for like my really like high quality prints. Like I have a couple prints that have gold foil, and I always go through a printer that's in Philadelphia, so not super far. The
Mm.
shipping's pretty cheap and close that I like. But I also finally this year invested in a printer for myself that's a pretty good
Mm.
quality inkjet printer. So now I feel like the sky is the limit for myself. I can print on demand myself. So
Yeah.
I don't have to order like 25 of every print that I'm going to stock in my Etsy shop anymore, which is so freeing. But that's really
Mm-hmm.
been in the last, I think I got it great timing unintentionally in March, right before the pandemic.
Right.
Yeah.
And then how, because I definitely want to get into how the pandemic affected your business. But before I get
hmm
into that, I'm curious, how did you go about marketing yourself?
I think I've always used Instagram the most. And in the last couple years, I have an email list that I have developed a little bit. Like I have free things for other people on my subscriber list once a month, like a coloring sheet or a calendar or something. That's a free download. But yeah, I would say marketing has been like all Instagram or word of mouth. And since I really refocused my business, or just focused, it wasn't even refocused, I actually focused my business to be more reflective of me and sort of my my values and everything. It's been like the partnerships have been so much more organic and like wonderful. I just love them. Like the one that I just did this last week, and it's actually been a series of collaborations, but my friend Paulina, who has a group on Instagram called Hermanas in the Law, that's all Latina lawyers. But we've collaborated on a bunch of stuff over the years, including from when she started, I designed her logo for her. But
Yeah.
like those kind of partnerships have been like my best sort of marketing, quote unquote. And it's really just like they're my favorite kind of marketing because it's like the kind of thing that I want to do. And no matter what, I want to support those organizations and get to know that community. So it's really been like through collaborations that have developed organically once I really focus my business that have been the best form of marketing for me in growing my community.
you worked on this and you focused on this, and then boom, pandemic. And so, which like everything around the world just was like at this standstill. So, and then on top of the pandemic, there was this whole kind of movement that happened too, which kind of like even ties into a little bit, I feel like, of your brand, because you have the Ladies of Law set that you've done, this awesome RBG illustration that you created. So it's like your content was right there in the thick of the movement, was like something I'm assuming people are like, oh my God, yes, this is what we're craving, what we appreciated. So I'm just curious, like, the last 8 months, how did that impact your business?
It's definitely been a roller coaster, as it's been for everyone, I think. Right at the beginning, I'd say, I used to do, because I do now more inventory and more like retail kind of stuff, like print sales and stickers and stuff. So I used to do more in-person fairs and pop-ups and stuff, and I had a bunch of those scheduled like for the spring. And so it was going to be like the super busy spring where I thought I'd have like a bunch of revenue coming in. And so right at the beginning, I'd say, like with everybody, it was definitely super slow. But a reason I'm thankful for my day job, I still had a job that I'm still working from home. Right. So it was okay, but it was in a weird way like a blessing to me, because I tend to run myself into the ground just because I love my business so much and I'm passionate about it. So it was a good thing to force me to take a breather and like work on like just making art for fun and making art that I was really passionate about. I had already had my Ladies of the Law stuff, but just having more opportunity to do that kind of thing and give back to the community. I'm also really passionate about mental health, so I have a lot of lettering and stuff like from the early part of the pandemic. That's all about staying positive, taking care of yourself. That kind of thing.
That was like a huge wellness push, right? Because I think a lot of people didn't realize probably how burned out and how much they needed that break until it happened.
I totally agree. Yeah. No, I totally agree. And then like with this racial justice movement, as you said, it's been weird for me because I've always cared about that and I always creating art for these things, and it was strange for me to suddenly, not that other people didn't care before, but like I have definitely grown my audience during this time. And for me, it's really just, I keep looking for more and more ways to give back. Yeah. Because of that, you mentioned my RBG print. So when she passed away, which is so devastating, I suddenly got, I think, like 25 sales in one night, which is a lot for me. And so I started looking for ways to give back immediately. And now I have this partnership with my law school actually to donate a portion of all my RBG and Supreme Court sales to a scholarship fund for law students who are doing public service work, since so much of her career was dedicated to public service. It was important to me to do something in all of my kind of racial justice, social justice work to continue like giving back to the community that's, I feel like, giving me so much and that I already just care about so much.
Yeah. I love that, because it's just sometimes it's just the timing of things. And I think that whole movement, I think kind of like the world and everybody was like asleep a little bit, and that kind of agree. Nudged people like, hey, there's things going on here that you don't know. We need people to get out of their bubble, right? And then all of a sudden, COVID is horrible because we're not even out of it. But what's interesting about it, forcing people to slow down actually gave them that opportunity to really look at what was going on around them. And I think everybody was just so busy that they just were focusing on just getting by and just their own lives. And when they were able to slow down, it was just like, wait a minute, what's happening here? you know? And so it was just this weird, perfect timing of all the things. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's just been an
Mhm.
interesting time. And I feel like your
Mhm.
content, people were like looking for that way to like support or have a daily reminder, be it a sticker on their laptop or a portrait in their house to remind them like, okay, this is
Mhm.
important and we can't forget it. And your art was just like right there waiting for them to help them do that, which is
No,
pretty cool.
yeah. No, timing is everything. I totally agree with you. I feel like we've all just been forced to develop the capacity to do more than one thing at once.
Yeah,
Like, think
yeah.
about kind of the interconnectedness of everything over the last 8 months. And like you said, like being home and having maybe more time or just more quiet, you
Right.
know, less kind of distraction. But yeah, it's been a strange time, but a great time, and it makes me really happy to have this way to be able to give back, especially since I have a full-time job. It's been like I've just been so happy to be able to contribute a lot more than I would have been able to, like this law school fund or with my Hermanos in the Law collaboration. I contribute some of the print sales to the National Latino Law Student Association, and we just got over $400 in donations
Wow.
from print sales. And so, yeah, it makes me so happy to be able to do that.
No, I love it. It's that give back. When you have a full time job, and I always tell people this because I've had different side hustles through the years. The money
Mhm.
I bring in, depending what year it is and what's going on, I have the flexibility to figure out how I want to use it, right?
Mhm.
So you
Yeah.
can use it to give back, you could use it to save, you could use it to go on vacation, but you could use it to do all the things. And
Mhm.
I love that you're using a portion of those proceeds to actually help others continue to do like amazing work too. It's just good that you're able to get enough sales in order to make a difference in those different groups that you value.
Thank you. Yeah, I really love just reading like the gift messages that come in even on Etsy, and it's so like sweet to see how people are connecting through the pandemic as well, and connecting in such a meaningful way by buying a print that reflects them or reflects their is like a nice reminder of taking care of yourself or something. So it's been so sweet to see those notes. And
Yeah.
I feel so like privileged to be part of that.
No, I think it's great. And I know there are some listeners out there too who it's funny, they want to give back and they also want to make some extra money in order to, like, let's say, pay off
Mhm.
debt or things like that. And I think you're
Yeah,
a great example of you can do both and
totally.
you can make it happen. You just have to figure out what your focus is, how much of those proceeds you want to go to X organization or whatever it is, and you just make it
Mhm.
happen. And the more you're successful, the more you're able to give back.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love everything you said about like the benefits of having a full-time job and a side hustle. Is I feel like it really has enabled me to do all those things. Invest in my business and invest in good art supplies because they're business expenses. Like
Right.
that's so nice. Get a printer. While at the same time being able to give back. It's been really cool to
Yeah.
do.
And then I just have a few wrap up questions. And before I get to the wrap up questions, just curious, are you doing anything special for the holidays to get stuff out there in market? Any advice you can give to
Mm.
people? Or
Mhm.
if you've even thought about that yet.
No, yeah, definitely. I'm such a like type A planner person, very cliche for a lawyer, but so I definitely have been planning. And I am planning both holiday content for my Instagram and adding things to my shop as well. Like holiday prints. I have some like that I've done over the years that are like Hanukkah themed or like DC and Christmas trees. So having the content, and then I think just like really I've been trying to develop more of a marketing strategy for my like mailing list and
Mm.
just to make sure that it's really built up for the holidays. So when
Mm-hmm.
that I do push out like a small business Saturday sale, then I have the community ready. And then I think I've just been getting little bits of indication that some of the pop-ups are coming back. I think they'll look really different than in past years when I used to do a lot of fairs and everything. But yeah, I think looking for those small opportunities to do a couple pop-ups throughout the city or wherever you are locally.
Right.
It seems like they're starting to come back, even if we're all going to be like wearing parkas so that we can all be outside. Doing a couple of those to get the word out too.
So a few wrap-up questions. How do you stay organized? Any tools, software, or techniques you want to pass along?
I love organizational stuff. I think we share this in common. Like note-taking. Although right now I just use Procreate. I just made myself some templates for keeping my to-do list separate. So I think especially like having a day job plus projects plus normal home stuff, I just made my own kind of template to keep tasks organized. But the biggest thing that I've been doing lately that I've found so helpful, especially having to, I don't know, have like work brain and then creative brain and then sort of like business creative brain, is I've been like blocking my time by the hour.
Yes. Yeah.
And that helps me so much. It really helps me like stay focused for the hour instead of, I got an email, I have to respond to this, or I got a DM or something.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. And then later, scheduling my posts on later.com has been like the best thing ever.
I was going to ask you about that because when you had even mentioned like thinking about the holiday post that you wanted to put out there, I was curious if you used a program to help you figure out like what they'll look like and send them out and all that good stuff. So that's your kind of go-to.
Later something someone else recommended to me like a year ago, and I finally got around to installing it recently, and it is so amazing, especially for. It's not that I don't even schedule that far in advance. It's really a few days out sometimes, maybe a week if I'm really on it. But just like having the flexibility, especially like with the day job, I always like post outside of my day job hours. And so it used to be like, I don't know if this happened for you, but sometimes I would be like, I need a post for tomorrow, and I'd be up at 12:30 in the morning. What am I going to post? It'd be so stressful. And so now it's like such a relief that I just wake up and it's already posted.
Right there. Right. Like you don't even have to think about it. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because earlier you mentioned Procreate, which I love. And I feel like I'm constantly seeing Instagram or TikTok videos where I'm like, Procreate does that? I can import in palettes of colors just using a photo. Yeah, it's amazing. And I feel like it's like Photoshop where there's so many like hidden things in it. I also love GoodNotes for taking notes. So I have Procreate where I do all the drawing and stuff, but I created like a notebook in Procreate and then exported it out as a PDF, and then I use GoodNotes to just take general notes. So even as we're talking right now, as if I want to remember stuff to ask you, I'm just like writing it in my GoodNotes app.
Oh, that's amazing. I listened to one of the episode with Morgan earlier today, and I was just like, oh my God, I have to look up GoodNotes.
Yes. I'm just saying, I think you'll love it. You can create the cutest like notebooks in Procreate, and then GoodNotes it's like when you get in there, you're just like, okay, I'm in note-taking mode. So
it sounds amazing. It sounds right up my alley for sure.
And then question for you, do you have a hobby?
I feel like I have too many hobbies. Someone the other day sent me like a post where it was like all of your hobbies outlined and just like basically all of your forgotten hobbies, and it was like you have like embroidery thread over here and you have some like wood from a woodworking project over here, and it was like, whoa, I feel really called out right now because I have a lot of hobbies. But right now I would say my biggest hobby that I've been really loving like during the pandemic is sewing. I learned how to sew when I was younger, and I would always do it because I like thrifting, and so I would like if it's so helpful if you like thrifting to be able to just alter things that are too big or something. But that was all I really used it for before. And then during that pandemic, like right at the beginning, I learned how to make masks and was like giving those away to people and everything. And now I'm just like, I love sewing. It's so fun. There's so many things you can make.
See, I feel like, even though COVID was terrible, there was we got to hold on to the little positive things that came out of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And you may have never taken the time to learn or start back sewing again if you hadn't had that time,
No, I think, 100%. I don't know that I ever would have. Or really taken the time to learn. I was always like a mediocre seamstress until now. Now I feel like I'm getting a lot better, which is fun.
And please just tell the listeners where they can find you, all the places.
Sure. I feel like I have so many, but primarily like Desert District for everything on Instagram. I'm there the most, but I also have a Pinterest and a Facebook page and all of that, and my website, which is the same, desertdistrict.com. And then my fine art is HeidiNielsen.art, and kind of the same on Facebook and my website.
Perfect. And I will include all the links in the show notes. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you.
All right, folks. I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. Loved her story. So many nuggets there. Bottom line is, if you really want to support an organization, you can do that while also making money for yourself. There is a way to do both, in a way to make sure that you are living by your values. You just have to, as she said, be very intentional about your business. Setting those clear goals are super important. And so I hope if you have been thinking about ways of supporting some of your favorite organizations, I hope this is the inspiration you needed in order to just go after it and do it. Anyway, the show notes for this page are over at nachesnow.com/120. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate me 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. Thank you to everyone who's done that already. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please give me a thumbs up. But wherever you're listening to this, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button. And remember, sharing is caring. So if you loved it, please share away. All right, guys. Thanks. I will be back next week with another amazing guest. Take care.